Hello everyone, this is part 16 of What If Naruto Awakened New Skills, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. The morning sun had long since risen when Naruto was awakened by a loud knocking at his front door. He had opted to take up his father's offer to take one of the houses in the Namikaze estate and had been sleeping comfortably in the large double bed in the master bedroom with his left arm draped over Hinata and his right arm under his head. His body was flush with Hinata's with her facing away from him. He figured she would wake up in an hour or so, in all likelihood with a hangover, something Naruto would never experience. Being completely unable to become intoxicated was as much a godsend as it was a curse. He could drink anyone except Gaara under the table, twice, and not worry about a hangover the next morning. He tried to remove his arm to find that at some point in the night Hinata had wrapped her arms around it and was now holding it very firmly next to her body, but to Naruto's great relief, against her stomach as opposed to the numerous other places on her body she could have put it, he carefully recovered his arm before climbing out of the bed and realizing that he was still wearing the same clothes he'd had on the night before, he brushed the thoughts aside as the knocking at the door came once again. He trudged down the stairs. He had nothing from his flat as he had yet to return to get them. Reaching the front door he opened it to see an Anbu there. "Naruto Namikaze, the Hokage has giving orders for me to bring you to him," said the Anbu. Their voice was distinctly feminine, but when it came to Anbu you never really could tell. "Where is he now?" asked Naruto, his voice a little hoarse and his eyes still only half open. "He is currently in his office, you must hurry," replied the Anbu. "Relax, I've got time for a shower and I'll still get there before you, but if you want to wait and come with me then grab a seat in the front room. I should only be 5 minutes," said Naruto, turning around and walking back up the stairs. The Anbu moved into the front room and stood at ease with their feet shoulder width apart and their hands behind their back. 5 minutes later Naruto came into the front room wearing a fresh set of clothes. He wore his forest camouflage trousers and a t-shirt with the same design. "Shall we?" he asked, and the Anbu nodded and made for the door. As they passed Naruto he put a hand on their shoulder and the next thing the Anbu knew he was in the Hokage's office. "What's so important you had to have this Anbu wake me up, ya old fart?" Naruto said. The Anbu was about to spin round and have a go at Naruto for disrespecting the Hokage till they heard the Hokage start laughing. "Not much of a morning person are you, son?" said Minato between laughs. "Normally yes, today no. What time is it anyway? There isn't a clock in that damn house." "It's 11 in the morning." "Great, I've had the sum total of about 5.5 hours sleep, so what's up?" His tone switching from a semi-sarcastic to a serious tone. "The Raikage has been and whilst it's not our policy to get involved with the politics of other shinobi villages, this time it could be as the new Raikage is trying to start a war with us. However, a number of their council have managed to dissuade him slightly. They have asked that we send a warrior no older than 15 to fight one of their own, and since you are the strongest fighter in Konoha and my son, we believe it would be in our best interests to send you. You will be accompanied by one other of your choice. Any problems?" explained Minato. Naruto released the hold he'd had on the stunned Anbu. "Well, this should be boring as sin. I think my choice will be pretty obvious. I'll take Gaara with me. After all, they think I'm the Furball's Jinchuriki still, and they know Gaara has Shukaku within him, so if they find out Konoha has 2 Jinchuriki in its ranks, I'm quite sure they won't want to fight, and you know me, I'm not going to let this be a one-on-one fight. That'll be too easy to stop a war. You have to show them just how outmatched they are," said Naruto. "Okay then, meet Ero-sennin at the front gate in 4 hours. He'll guide you to Kumo," said Minato, and then Naruto just disappeared. "He's your son?" asked the Anbu a little baffled. "Yup," said Minato. "That explains why he wasn't bothered about keeping you waiting," said the Anbu before saluting and disappearing in a puff of smoke. 4 hours later Naruto, Gaara, Sasuke, Hinata and Utsuri stood at the main gate of Konoha. Naruto and Hinata held each other tightly before separating slightly. They locked eyes before passionately. Naruto then turned to Sasuke. "Look after her for me, I'm counting on you," he said. "I won't let you down," Sasuke replied. While this was going on, Gaara and Utsuri were also embracing. When they pulled apart, Utsuri first looked into Gaara's eyes, then looked away from Gaara and the other group and bit lightly on her lower lip, seemingly trying to make a decision about something. Then without warning she turned back to Gaara and kissed him on the lips and then ran off, leaving Gaara speechless and confused. Naruto had watched what happened and came over with Hinata. She's worried that you're leaving and you won't make it back. I think she feels if she doesn't say goodbye then it'll make it easier. As far as I know she's never had anyone to care for outside her brothers before now, and it seems she already feels a strong connection to you, he explained. Very well then, I shall just have to make sure I come back completely unharmed to her and prove to her that her worries were unfounded, replied Gaara. Naruto turned to Hinata and nodded. She took off in the direction that Utsuri had gone in, with Sasuke hot on her heels when he saw that she'd taken off. Ready? Asked Jiraiya. Getting a nod from both boys, he turned and headed out the gates. It's okay. Listen, Gaara is the only person in this entire village that can go toe-to-toe with Naruto for longer than a few seconds. You saw him those missing ninja and mercs like they were nothing. He couldn't beat Gaara that easily, and do you really think Naruto will let anything happen to him? He thinks of both Sasuke and Gaara as brothers. They shared similar experiences as him, and something tells me even the entire of Kumo couldn't match Naruto, never mind Gaara as well. Hinata said. It had taken her nearly half an hour to finally catch up to Utsuri, and now she was sitting on bench holding the hand and rubbing the back of the heavily crying girl. Utsuri couldn't bring herself to think. It was so painful to think of Gaara going off on a mission with the possibility that he may not come back, even with Naruto there to look after him. 3 days later, Naruto, Gaara and Jiraiya stood around 2 miles from Kumo. They looked up the mountain at the constantly thundering clouds and the village up on the mountain. Well boys, here's where I part ways. I'll see you back here tomorrow evening and we'll begin our trip back to Konoha, said Jiraiya before waving to them and walking off. Cro Senin, said Naruto, and laughed when the Sannin cringed at his words. Then he and Gaara began the walk to the gates of Kumo. Half an hour later they arrived at the gates of Kumo. They weren't as big or as daunting as Konoha's. In fact, in comparison they were rather dull. They saw a girl standing just inside. She wore a Kumo forehead protector, to hold back her long blonde hair that went to halfway down her back. Each cheek had 2 whisker-like marks. Like Naruto, she had blue eyes, but hers were a darker blue, more akin to the ocean's blue than Naruto's sky blue. She wore black Anbu-style pants and loose-fitting gray shirt and gray ninja sandals. So these are the 2 weaklings Konoha sends. You aren't going to last long, said the girl ILY. Naruto just smiled. Tell Hekagen that Akahito is gone, said Naruto, still smiling. However, the look on the girl's face quickly changed to one of shock before she tried to cover it up. I have no idea who Hekagen or Akahito are or what you're talking about, she said, looking away. You cannot lie to us. I still hold Shukaku and he has absorbed Kyuubi, said Gaara monotonously. Again the girl was shocked. For the first time in her life she had met others like herself, and apparently they were highly trusted in Konoha for both to be sent with no one else as an escort. I'm guessing your treatment here has been no better than our own, and the idea of sending you to greet us would be their idea of showing disdain. I'd advise against you fighting. You don't stand any more of a chance than Gaara here, said Naruto. Why did Konoha send you? Are they not scared you would just run away? She asked, still not quite sure. Why would they be? My dad trusted me with this mission for a reason. I'm the strongest shinobi in Konoha, I could lay waste to it. But instead I fight to protect it and those within it that I care for, explained Naruto. What do you mean your dad? Asked the girl. The 4th Hokage, of course. What's your name? Asked Naruto. It's Yugito ni. Now come on, I got to take you to the Raikage, said the girl, and with that she started walking off. As they were walking, Naruto noticed all the villagers glaring at Yugito and was none too pleased about. He decided to do something about it. He stopped. I suggest you stop glaring at her and go about your business before I put you all in the hospital, he said loud enough for everyone around to hear. When he finished speaking, 3 Anbu appeared around him. It would be advisable for you to not threaten our citizens for their reactions to the demon, said one of the ANBU. Instantly he fell down. The other 2 looked at Naruto and saw his eyes, Fuangan glaring and filled with hatred. He let out a burst of chakra stronger than either of the Anbu had ever felt. I would advise you take him to the hospital soon or he won't live, and inform your citizens that I will not stand for any Jinchuriki being referred to as the being they keep them safe from, and that includes my comrade here. He is also a Jinchuriki and could quite easily lay waste to both of you. replied Naruto, his voice filled with malice and contempt. The Anbu swiftly followed his instructions, and the crowd that had gathered, hoping to at least see a fight and maybe find reason to have the demon K, swiftly dispersed and took his words to heart. None would ever look at the girl the same way again, and many would switch to being advocates for her protection from that day. They carried on with no more glares directed at Yugito, the news of what Naruto had done and said spreading like wildfire through the village. They arrived at the large metallic structure in the center of the village with the kanji for cloud in middle 3/4 of the way up. As they entered the Raikage's office, Naruto noticed it was a little strange, seemingly designed like the clouds above. The window at the end of the room curved, and from the edges of the window it seemed to be continuous rounded alcoves. The desk was a simple rectangle made of a dark wood, the Raikage sitting behind it in a high-backed red leather armchair. They approached and Naruto stepped forward. "Get rid of the Anbu before I leave them unconscious. They can wait outside the room," he said monotonously. The Raikage looked up from his paperwork and glared at him. "Who are you?" he said. "I'm the shinobi Konoha sent for this little test," said Naruto. "Oh really, and what's your name and rank?" the Raikage asked. "My name is Naruto Namikaze, son of the 4th Hokage of Konoha. My rank, by special order of the Fire Daimyo, is Jokujonin. I am answerable to only my father and the Daimyo himself," replied Naruto. The Raikage raised a thin eyebrow at this. He was a young man, no more than 25 years old, long black hair and a relatively slim frame. His curved face was clean-shaven, and his onyx black eyes showed a calculating mind and a ruthlessness that showed he would use anyone or do anything to get what he wanted. "I heard what you did in our streets. What makes you think you have the right to do that to our citizens?" said the Raikage calmly. "That right is mine by proxy of being a former Jinchuriki myself. I say former because I have fully absorbed the power and memories, whilst remaining the dominant personality, of the Kyuubi no Yoko that was once sealed within me. I have that right from having experienced the very same treatment myself, and if by the time I am to leave tomorrow I do not feel she will be treated correctly, as a hero not a demon, then we shall take her with us when we leave for Konoha, where my generation will welcome her with open arms," said Naruto sternly. "Oh, and what makes you think you have the power to do so?" asked the Raikage. "I can already sense your chakra capacity. It's not even 1/100th of my own. Heck, it's not even on par with Gaara here's. I could lay waste to this entire village with a single attack. I suggest you assemble your top 100 under-15s for this little match, and I will show you just how far above your people I am. In fact, let's make it really interesting, at least for me. Add the top 20 of your entire ninja force onto that list and we'll see just how long they last. You have 2 hours," said Naruto before turning and walking towards the door. "Are you coming with us, Yugito?" he asked. She quickly bowed to the Raikage before following Naruto and Gaara at a swift pace. "Did you really mean what you said?" she asked when she thought they were a safe enough distance from the room. "Yes," replied Naruto. "Do you even know which part I'm asking about?" she asked, thinking they might in different thought tracks. "It doesn't matter, I meant every word of it," he said. To say Yugito was shocked was an understatement. He was going to take on 120 shinobi at once, and his threat to level the village was more of a promise. Suddenly 3 Anbu appeared around her. "Leave her be or you will not live." This time it was Gaara talking. "Why should we listen to you? It's no concern of you what we do to the demon," replied the Anbu. Gaara s his palm against his forehead, and in the same split second his hand hit his head. The Anbu hit the floor. "Anyone else want to try anything? He's already I just broke his in," said Naruto, the anger dripping from his voice. One of the 2 remaining Anbu moved to grab his ninjato. As his hand grabbed the hilt, his head rolled from his shoulders. The last one grabbed Yugito's arm and tried to pull her in front of him as shield, but as he pulled his arm back he found it was missing from the elbow down. Auto FN. For those that don't know, a ninjato is sword the same length as a wakizashi, but where the wakizashi is curved the ninjato is straight. "You are worse than trying to use a comrade to protect yourself. I will spare you nothing," said Naruto as he looked directly into the Anbu's eyes. A moment later the Anbu hit the floor. The way the bee was pulling from his arm rather than spurting showed he was SWW. "What did you do to him?" asked Yugito, a little scared. "I'll explain on the way. Now come on," said Naruto, walking away with Gaara following closely behind. Yugito caught up and fell into step with Gaara on Naruto's other side. 2 hours later, Naruto, Gaara and Yugito stood in a room that looked exactly the same as the one that the preliminaries for the third round had been held in. Naruto stood in the center surrounded by 100 people between the ages of 12 and 14 and a further 20 Anbu all ready to attack him. As requested, 120 shinobi have been assembled and I seriously believe you have overestimated your own abilities, said the Raikage. Naruto said nothing, instead he just closed his eyes and relaxed his body. Nothing to say? Asked the Raikage, his voice still why? Very well then, began. As soon as the last word came out of his mouth, the ninja nearest Naruto fell to the floor. The next wave behind him went to move and hit the floor. Again and again, wave after wave of shinobi fell. Naruto didn't even seem to have moved as the shinobi fell one after another. Within a minute, every single shinobi that was set to challenge Naruto was on the floor unconscious. I trust I've proven my power, said Naruto. The Raikage scowled at him. Then he clicked his fingers. One Anbu landed behind Gaara and another behind Yugito. Submit or I'll K them both, said the Raikage. Naruto scowled at him, then suddenly appeared right in front of him and another appeared behind the Anbu behind Yugito. You are unfit to lead, you s your own people for your own ends, I will serve you justice, said Naruto. Then the Naruto behind the Anbu had one of his wakizashi through the head of the Anbu. The Anbu behind Gaara immediately tried to attack him only to be blocked and then consumed and crushed by a wall of sand. Then in a single fluid motion Naruto drew one of his wakizashi, removed the Raikage's head and spun to face away from him faster than any there could see. The Council of Kumo came out from one of the doors and one stepped forward to speak. Thank you for ridding us of that tyrant. Could you stay a few more days and take charge of the village till we can find a suitable new cage? He asked. I cannot. However, I'm sure that you will be able to find a suitable cage if the peace treaty I have with me is signed, and since you have no cage it will require the signatures of every member of your council, replied Naruto, flicking his sword to remove the small amount of bee on it and then sheathing it. What does the treaty entail? Asked another council member. It entails 4 primary things: a mutual agreement of peace and aid between Konoha and Kumo. Meaning if either were to be attacked the other would come to their aid. It requires a similar treaty to be arranged with sooner and signed within 3 months. A complete, unrestricted sharing of military information between Konoha and Kumo, and finally a law must be passed in Kumo to protect any Jinchuriki that states they are to be recognized as heroes. The law must carry a penalty for any that break this law of death. The exception will be made whereby any Jinchuriki that has committed a crime must have a trial with a minimum of a 10-person jury in which half are supports of the Jinchuriki and can only be convicted with a unanimous verdict. These terms are non-negotiable. There are several other terms, but I have authorization to negotiate these terms where needed. I have one more term that I myself would like to request, said Naruto. And what might that be? Asked the first council member. That Yugito ni become the Kumo representative for Konoha, replied Naruto. Some of the council members scoffed, muttering about it be preposterous and how they couldn't let the demon leave the village. Naruto raised an eyebrow. By those mutterings I take it that Kumo does not want this treaty in the slightest, as some of you are already breaking a law that must be put in place before the treaty will become valid, Naruto stated bluntly. Quickly the murmurings stopped. No, the treaty is very much wanted. If you would please follow us, we shall draft the law now and bring it in with immediate effect and make the announcement as soon as you have approved the law, said the first council member, walking off. 3 hours later the last council member signed the treaty, and after a little persuasion from Naruto by saying that if they made Yugito the representative to Konoha it would give further proof that she was being treated as a hero. After all, what better representative than a village hero? Yugito then spent the rest of the day showing Naruto and Gaara around the village and talking to them about how it had been for each of them growing up. After a while it was decided that Yugito had had it the worst. She had had much of the same treatment as Naruto until she hit 10. She was a year older than Naruto and Gaara, and at 10 she started to mature, and at that point the men realized she could be used as more than just a punch bag. The women, not seeing her as human, didn't care, so from the age of 10 she was raped almost daily along with the beatings, sometimes being raped by as many as 40 men 4 and 5 times each. But she was thankful to Konoha and most of all Naruto, because since she was the representative, if anything happened now she could inform Konoha on her next visit and Kumo would have hell to pay, and since the entire village had been told, she was certain her troubles were over. Later that evening Yugito and Naruto sat atop the Raikage's tower. They had been chatting for around an hour about nothing in particular, mostly about what Konoha and Kumo were like when Yugito finally asked the question that she'd spent the entire time trying to find the courage to ask. What would you say about going out with me? She asked. Sorry, no can do, I'm already engaged to someone I love very much, replied Naruto. Yugito looked downcast. What about Gaara? She asked, hoping she might be able to get him. He seemed pleasant enough, if a little quiet. I doubt it, he's quite taken with my cousin and she him. I'm quite certain that the moment we get back he'll be hooking up with her, he replied. Again Yugito looked downcast. It's really hard to find someone who sees me for me and not four legs, she said. Naruto couldn't help but laugh. What's so funny? She asked, thinking he was laughing at her. Sorry, it's just I realized the only people that ever disrespect demons are the Jinchuriki they get sealed in. I used to call Akahito the furball, you call Hekagen four legs, and Gaara usually refers to Shukaku as the A-bandit. Most people wouldn't dream of insulting the demons, and yet the ones that you'd think would probably have most to fear from them, the Jinchuriki, always insult them, he said smiling. Yugito couldn't help but smile. He made a good point. The next morning Naruto decided he wanted to get a few gifts for Hinata, and so he, Yugito and Gaara started to go round the shops of Kumo. For the most part Gaara remained silent and appeared to be deep in thought, since he usually had to be asked a question twice before he would answer. After a couple of hours going round the shops, Gaara finally decided to ask the question Naruto knew had been coming and was waiting for. In fact, he'd found the answer about an hour ago but still had to wait for Gaara to ask the question. Naruto, would you help me find a suitable gift for Atsuri, please? He asked. Naruto simply smiled and started looking through the bags he already had. I was wondering how much longer I was going to have to wait for you to ask, he said, finally finding what he was looking for, pulling a small black box out of the bag his hand was in. He then passed the box to Gaara, who looked at it quizzically before asking in a bemused tone. What is this? Naruto smiled. Why don't you open it and have a look? He asked. Gaara looked at it again before carefully lifting the lid of the box. Within it were two necklaces, each with a pendant of half the kanji for ichi, one in Japanese for those that don't know. What does it mean? He asked, still very confused. Naruto smiled. Gaara was still very unsure when it came to things like this, but it would come to him in time. Two halves of one whole, it means you are together and the only person that can complete you is the person that has the other half of the necklace, he explained. Gaara's face seemed to light up as the explanation hit home. He then bowed deeply. Thank you so much, Naruto, he said. No problem, what are friends for? He said it as a statement rather than a question, and it was one of those that Gaara understood. The trio continued shopping for another hour before getting lunch, which consisted of a table full of local delicacies which Naruto insisted on paying for, and it was easily established that being a Jinchuriki or former Jinchuriki gave you a much bigger AP, as Yugito easily ate as much as the boys. As it grew closer to evening, the three of them packed their things into scrolls and departed from Kumo, the council having decided that in order to give them time to ensure the law would be properly enforced, it would be best for Yugito to make her first official visit to Konoha immediately, as well as going from there to Suna to begin making the arrangements to form a treaty with them. They left Kumo a little before dusk and arrived to meet Jiraiya at dusk. Is that Jiraiya of the Sannin? Asked Yugito as they got close enough for her to see him. Yep. That's Ero Sennin, the self-proclaimed super pervert and writer of the Ika Ika series of perverted books, replied Naruto. Yugito was shocked. You would insult a member of the Sannin? What kind of guy are you? She said harshly. The guy's like a grandfather to me, and he trained my dad, and like I said, he's a self-proclaimed super pervert. Ask him if he's a pervert and see his reaction for yourself, replied Naruto. 5 minutes later they reached him, and Naruto decided to prove the point that Jiraiya was a super pervert. Hey Ero Sennin, Yugito here doesn't believe you're a pervert, said Naruto. And she shouldn't, said Jiraiya holding his chin. Yugito smiled an IW and smile at Naruto before Jiraiya continued. Because I'm not just any pervert, I'm a super pervert, said Jiraiya, striking a pose that he obliviously thought was dramatic but just caused the three kids to sweat drop, along with Yugito's jaw hitting the floor from his outright admission of the fact. Told ya so, said Naruto before walking past Jiraiya, followed by grumbling Yugito and Gaara, with a slight smile on his face at the other two's antics. As Gaara passed him, a wind blew in front of Jiraiya, bringing a tumbleweed along with it. After about a minute of just standing there, Jiraiya got out of the pose and quickly caught up with them as they started the trip back to Konoha. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.